Welcome to the Art of Marketing Operations, a Taylor podcast. I'm Glenn Bottomley, and today my guest is Alessandro Bogliari, co-founder and CEO at the Influencer Marketing Factory, a global influencer marketing agency which creates the most authentic, scalable, and ROI-oriented social media influencer campaigns for amazing brands on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Thanks for joining us today, Alessandro.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Alessandro, you are, as I mentioned, the co-founder of Influencer Marketing Factory. So to start today's episode, please describe who an influencer is versus who a content creator is. And then what is the difference and why is understanding that distinction so important for marketers to understand?
Absolutely. First of all, in the past 10 years, influencer marketing changed so much, right? And many people start using influencers and content creators at the same time. But I would say there is, a huge difference, right? So first of all, every influencer out there, it's basically a content creator, right? But not every content creator is necessarily an influencer, first of all, right? So that there is already a big difference there. An influencer is someone that can, create content and also influence the others in doing something. Could be, purchase an item, for example, online or offline, go to an event, vote, donate your blood, anything like that, right? You are influencing others in a decision. While a content creator is someone that basically creates content, but not necessarily the final goal. It is to influence you in buying something, for example. So an example could be, for example, that let's say that you're cooking, your favorite dishes every single day, and you're cooking those. You're like, taking a video of those, editing them on Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, but you never really show yourself. That is like basically creating content, right? But it might be a bit difficult for you to push, right, your influence on others. While instead, if you're like on video with your own face cooking, for example, the people can create a relationship with you, right? And the moment you're gonna sell them on something or propose a new, for example, like a new pen to buy, they can associate you with an authority in the space, someone they can trust, and therefore also go and buy. So you're creating content, but also having that trust and that bridge between you and your audience because they feel that they know you. So that I would say is the main difference.
Brilliant insight. Thank you. So let's narrow in then on the influencers specifically. So what is it about what they do that allows them specifically to become a marketing asset for any company?
Absolutely. So what I say all the time is this. Last time that most probably you went out to a restaurant or you bought a new pair of shoes, most probably a friend of your story or a family member, right? That's been there for ages. So what happened in the past years, it is that this idea of having someone that you can trust, someone that you can see as an authority in a specific niche or space, it's an influencer. Someone that is basically a peer of yours. It's not a celebrity that is untouchable, right? It is really far away from you. It's someone that can understand, right, you. It's someone that you can be having a drink together, because you feel this relationship. So as you would trust a friend telling you what to buy, where to go, an influencer is basically doing the same to you. So it's powerful because it's not just selling on you. It's actually educating you. It's having every single day a little connection with you. Could be through Instagram stories, via a vlog on YouTube. So when you have this bridge of authenticity and trust, you start feeling that this person really knows very well about a specific topic, for example. And after following this person for maybe 1, 2, 3 months, 1 year, 2 years, after a while, you start believing like, hey, I should trust this person. Or even if it's not just about trust, I want to help, for example, this influencer, right, to get maybe, a brand deal. I want to support them and so on. But that works again because of this. You can see in this person someone that basically is your friend, even if you don't know them personally. But you have this relationship that is quite unique, and that is why it works.
That's a valuable perspective. So can you even back us up even further? So what is a little bit about the history of influencer marketing, but then rapidly bring us back to today, and how are you seeing marketers taking advantage of this strategy today?
Yeah, absolutely. 10 years ago, everything started with bloggers, right? They were basically just going out there and telling, for example, and writing a blog post about their 10 favorite, clothes for that season, for example. That started as a game, right? Like, I do have some time on me. I want to share my knowledge with the others. There was not the idea that you were able to monetize, neither for brands, right? Maybe there was a little bit of affiliate marketing at the beginning, but that meant that the blogger was choosing basically to put links, right, to make some money out of it. And also, these people were not really believing in that much more than, I just want to share my knowledge with the others. Fast forward, now we do have instead a system in place where brands want to pay influencers to help them promote things in a different way. Why is that? Because a lot of corporate people finally realize that messages and the type of medium that you use cannot be only corporate. You have to understand that, especially Gen Z and millennials, they do, talk a different language. And so instead of doing something that might sound a bit off or not that compelling, for example, for people, you want to have someone that understands very well what is happening in the industry, the do's and don'ts of social media. So instead of having someone in-house, you prefer to go with an influencer that can actually promote it. And more than that, nowadays, influencers are not just merely promoting a product. They actually help also on the message, how to put a specific angle on that item. Sometimes you co-create the products, for example. So we've been seeing that in the past, right? Influencers coming up with either their own products or co-create a new line of products for specific brands. And that helps because you have a unique angle on that, and certain type of followers will buy specifically because this is in co-creation with their favorite influencer. So you have so many different angles on that one. And lastly, that I also would like to add, anytime that you do an influencer marketing campaign, in addition, right, to all the nice videos and photos that you have, you can actually have a focus group of people, if you think about it. Anytime that someone comments on a social media post under an influencer post, you can actually gather that data and do, for example, sentiment analysis, understanding what people love or do not love about a specific product. So you pay for a service, you get so much more out of it.
Mm-hmm. That's an interesting perspective because, you're really, by making this connection to the influencer, you're really creating that liaison to your audience, potentially an audience that doesn't already know about you today, or gets you entree or access to an audience that you want to have access to. And the influencer becomes sort of a conduit from your audience or from your products and services to them. So with that sort of said, what has been your experience about how both B2C brands and B2B brands utilize influencers in their marketing mix? Because my mind would think that obviously B2C, this feels like such a strong strategy, but I'm also interested in your perspective on the B2B side too.
Absolutely, you can do both. You're totally right. B2C, it's easier. Mostly because there are more influencers on the B2C side. It's a bit easier to sell a pair of shoes compared to, for example, a software, as a service platform, for example. That doesn't mean that you cannot do that. And I'm going to go more in detail in a second. But on the B2C, the good thing is that influencer marketing works for basically any industry out there. We work it on many verticals, and it is all about the type of message and the type of influencers that you look into. 10 years ago, you were barely and just mostly looking for, their style on their pictures and some metrics, what we call vanity metrics. So, for example, the number of followers. But finally, we all understand that those are only vanity metrics and they don't really matter that much. You want to look at other things, right? Such as, for example, the engagement rate of someone, historical data on, for example, previous, right, purchases for other clients, for example. You want to look at how many clicks on a link in bio a person received, right? So you want to look at all those things and really do your homework even before starting the campaign. Finding the right influencers for BTC, it's very, very important because it is better to spend enough time to do enough work before in order to understand exactly what works and what doesn't, what are the people that might bring in the most results, compared to just rush that process and then, had to start that again and maybe just losing wasting money on that. So doing the work about understanding we can be really your type of influencers, really important to do. And you can do the same also for B2B. In the B2B, I would say that the coin has, like, I would say that on the one hand, it's a bit more difficult, right, to find these people. But on the other hand, because it's more niche, the time that you find the right people, these people really are going to bring you enough value, right? Because if you're looking, for example, let's say you want to sell a platform that can help you, for example, collect payments, let's say. You are looking for specific people, let's say on LinkedIn, for example, that can help you, right, to go and craft the message in a way that is informative, but also entertaining, for example. And you know that the people there that usually follow other professionals, are not just random people. Maybe they are like, decision makers in companies. So whenever you see a video, you might only be seen by, let's say, 100 people compared to the millions of TikTok. But those 100 people are most probably more in target and ready to do a expensive purchase compared to maybe millions of people that can find you on a like more silly a random video on TikTok. So again, numbers sometimes tell you only part of the story. You really want to be in target, talk the right lingo depending on the medium that you are. So if you're doing a video for TikTok, you cannot just take that one and put it on Instagram Reels. And you cannot just do the same for YouTube Shorts. Each medium is different type of demographics and personas. Therefore, even when you think about your influencer, if it is B2C or B2B, all the time crafted thinking about the type of medium you are working on.
Mm-hmm. Precisely. Now, I want to kind of stay on that question just a little bit because I'm curious, with clients that you've worked with in the past, have you run into situations where either on the B2C side or the B2B side, where an influencer was selected and the performance of that investment of the marketing operations team in that influencer did not generate either the return on investment or the performance that the customer was looking for? And then I guess the other question on that would be, if there has been that failure, how does a marketing team know if it's not working? So obviously you would think if I am getting no lift in sales, if I'm getting no lift on social media, if there's no lift, that's an obvious. But what if there's some lift, but maybe not as much as you thought? Maybe you were projecting that you were going to. So can you talk us through sort of the selection process a little bit more? And how do you determine whether or not this specific influencer is actually working for the brand or not?
Totally. So when it comes to the process, there are different ways to find influencers. You can use platforms. There are different type of pricing out there in terms of platform that you can use, from ones that cost you maybe $50 a month to 6 digits, type of contracts per year. But more or less, they give you more or less the same type of data, right? And so you can look, for example, for specific categories and numbers, and sort of like touch and feel, for example, of the content creator, the influencer. What we see all the time it is that you should not only look at the data of the influencer, but basically really look at the audience data. Because if you are looking for specific type of demographics, you do care about the influencer, but like at the end of the day, these people, they talk to an audience. If the audience is not into your demographics, what's even the point, right? So many marketers, they only look at the data of the influencer. They don't look at all the demographics, all the data of the audience. So first of all, there is something to look into all the single time. So again, you can use platforms. You can go on different like websites of talent agencies. They usually have a roster of people that you can ask, look at, contact them, for example, and having back all the different media kits of the people they work for. And usually, in addition to metrics, you actually have previous case studies, and you can ask to an agency like us, for example, to share more case studies and specific metrics that you want to look at. Whenever you use influencers, we recommend all the time to also do a mix, right? You don't want to put all the eggs in one basket. You don't want just to get a macro influencer, pay this person a lot, and maybe flops. That's, like catastrophic. But if instead you take maybe 10 of them and, 2 underperform, all the other 8 are going to do, and maybe a couple of them are going to do more than what expected, right? Especially, let's say on TikTok. TikTok, it can work that even someone with maybe 10,000 followers can still make 2 million views, right, for a video. So I would say that you have to balance it all the time. So first of all, understanding that it's important, looking at the demographics, and also, as I was saying before, historical data. If you're able to get, for example, case studies from influencers that can tell you, you know what, for this brand in the past, I was able to bring this number of clicks. Or the brand told me that after the campaign with me, they were able to sell X amount of items and dollars, right? You can use that as a forecast. It's not going to be ever a guarantee. And I'm going to tell you why. Mostly for two reasons. One, social media can always shadow ban a post of an influencer, right? Especially whenever, because of TC regulations, you have to say there is an advertisement. And sometimes social media might not like that. And therefore they might shadow ban certain posts, right? So your organic reach is going to be lower than expected. Or number two, the influencer is perfect. Usually it works very well with similar products in the same space. What happened is that, let's say that you put a link in bio to a specific website, right? And the website, it takes maybe 3 seconds to load, right? Or 5 seconds. Well, that is a problem not of the influencer, but on the product side. And we know that sometimes certain clients think like, oh, I didn't sell enough. Why is that? And then we maybe go on the website and we notice that the page is not loading, or it is a 404 page, not found. And in the moment, of course, it's not on the influencer, right? But it's on the experience of the user. Sometimes it happened, maybe you sold out of an item, a product on your website. And in the moment during the campaign, you were not able, for example, right, to fill up, faster enough. And people now start complaining. Or maybe in that period of time, you're not selling enough, mostly because there are no more items in your, storage. So there are many things to look at, but all the time, as an entirety, as you will look at Google Ads as part of the of the marketing mix, influencer marketing is the same. It cannot be seen as the only thing. It's part of the different touch points. That's why it's important also after to do remarketing, for example, or look at the data and analyze which influencers brought you the most, right? Do an ROI analysis, not for the campaign only, but for each single individual influencer. And the next time that you're going to run another campaign, use the best 3, for example, right? Because they already brought you in, and look for other 7. And do this loop up until you find your ambassador that works very well. And why not? You can use them for all year long instead of only one-shot activity.
That's an excellent observation, because, I like how you sort of are approaching or recommending that marketing operations teams evaluate and incorporate influencer marketing as a part, a cohesive part, an element of their overall marketing mix, as it's it's another channel, whether it's email or social or the web or a trade show, face-to-face, whatever the technique is, that it is another important component. But also how you shared how having multiple influencers, as you were describing that, my mind almost went to sort of a portfolio analysis where you almost want to spread your risk that you have, or spread your investment. I may be choosing 5 influencers here. One may perform better than the others, but you're measuring the performance of all of them. And then if, the fifth lowest is not performing as well, maybe, you exit that influencer, bring in another. But so I like that sort of portfolio approach as you described it. Are there other sort of tips and tricks like that you would encourage marketing operations teams, how they should be looking at influencer marketing?
Totally. I would say to spend enough time to understand the metrics that matter the most. After 10 years that I've been doing this, I still see people that look at the wrong metrics. They look at the wrong KPIs before starting a campaign. They do not understand social media as they should. Again, they maybe look at TikTok as it is Instagram, and they are totally 2 different things in terms of user experience, demographics, type of influencer content, right? So I would say that first of all, it is to trust only the same influencers that you want to contact when it comes to the type of content to create. I noted that certain brands, they want to almost dictate what the influencer should say. And that usually do not work, because let's say that you master the find the right influencers, right? So you know which metrics to look at, the KPIs, the different goals, demographics, you have everything under control. But then the message, right? It is dictated by the brand on a style that really doesn't, resonate with the influencer and the influencer's audience. People will see that that is not really natural and authentic. So what we recommend usually is to trust the process, trust the influencers. They are the one that knows very well the audience. They know what happens on social media every single day. These people spend not 8 hours a day on social media. They spend 15 hours of their life, even more, right, on social media. They are the best people when it comes to the do's and don'ts, what works and what doesn't. Even if sometimes you might not understand, maybe coming, let's say, from a corporate side, why a video, people find it like, let's say, entertaining. Even if you don't understand that, trust a bit the process there. Of course, you want guidelines. Don't maybe say that specific keywords because it's not under our brand image, for example. You want, of course, to have boundaries. But if you want to try to have your corporate style, let's say on a TikTok video, it might not work. If you want to do a TikTok video instead on YouTube Shorts, it might also not work. So each different influencer, they know very well their own social media, and usually they master one very well. If you are a really great YouTuber, you might use TikTok as a discovery tool with short form videos to bring you people from TikTok to your YouTube channel, right? And sometimes, even vice versa. So all in all, just to say, many marketers, they think that they already mastered the game, but the moment that you are not updated to the last week, news about social media, you might be completely lost and out of touch and be outdated like that, So it's a never-ending type of loop game where you have to be all the time understanding what happens. But that's basically the 101, the ABC that you have to do to be a good marketer when it comes to social media and influencers. And again, trust in the process, trust what works, and content creators, they are the only one that they know more than anyone else what will potentially work and how to bring the people to purchase an item online.
I'm with you 100% on that. There's also a little of that fear of missing out. Like you say, if you're a little disconnected for a little while, that's for sure. But now I'm going to switch gears on you here. So obviously, as the CEO of an influencer marketing agency, you are strongly promoting the benefits and the strengths and the value of influencer marketing. Mm-hmm. But I'm curious, let's flip it around. So when or where does influencer marketing break down? In other words, how have you seen, even with the best intentions, the team is ready to go, the company is ready to go, you're ready to go, the influencer is ready to go, and it's just an epic fail. So how have you seen influencer marketing fail, and how do you sort of address that or try to minimize that risk of failure through the process, in either working with clients or in the recommendations that you give to other marketers?
This is a really great question and a really great point. What I would really stress it is that influencer marketing, it is a people business. You can use all the platform that you like. You can create all the frameworks that you want. At the end of the day, you are talking with a person that even if you call it influencer, it might be a mom of 2 kids, really busy during the day. It might be a college student that is doing this as a side gig, and it's basically studying all day and doesn't really have the time sometimes to think about it like, oh, I had to post this today. So really, at the end of the day, you are talking with people that are more professional in their mindset. Some others, even if they're making a lot of money on influencers marketing, they might forget to post about you. So what you have to think and all the time realize that you will go into a lot of communication on a daily basis with these people. When it comes to an influencer marketing agency, we do that on behalf of the brand. So we do all the communication, and sometimes the communication goes even, let's say, on iMessage, WhatsApp, it goes over, it's not just emailing anymore, especially with younger people. So it might be a bit messy. And if you are not on the same page when it comes not for the overall contract, but the scope of work, that is the most important part. Because the scope of work tell you exactly when you have to post, the deadline, any guidelines. And if you're not on the same page there, that is where it can break down. Because, for example, let's say that the influencer skimmed the contract quickly. they didn't really look and pay attention to the specifics, right, of what they had to deliver. And then maybe they deliver, 2 stories instead of 5. And then another influencer maybe forget to put the link in bio. Or maybe they put, as it happens many times, the wrong link without UTM parameters. So for example, it's difficult to track things, right? So there are so many little items. And again, it's a people business. These people, some of them are really professional. Some others, for them, it's still like, they're still trying out things. They don't think as a company, right? And so you might have a lot of these little things. And when you launch a campaign, the first moments are really important. You want to be on top of everything. But of course, again, things can break down because in the past it happens that maybe, someone were like impossible to, reach by phone, for example, and there was a specific deadline. Again, if it was like a company to company, you might have like, policies in, in place. You might have, if that not that person, you have someone else, right? That they might take like, in this case, we're talking with a person that usually it's them, unless they have an agent, right? So again, so many little things can go wrong. And that's why it's important to really have that perspective. I'm talking with another human being, and they might have so many things like going on in their life that you want to approach it on both a business side and also on a personal side. Again, it's a bit difficult to get into that mindset, and it can get a lot of frustration. But the moment you realize, don't look into this only as business to business, but as person to person, then I can really go like from a different point of view and be like, okay, this might be the potential problem, right? On a personal side, on a personal level. Let me fix them before, so that we don't get to that situation. And I would say that at the beginning, if it is your first campaign, you will commit many mistakes. It's normal. You will not think about so many little things. After, like in our case, thousands of them, it's like we know more or less what to expect. But again, it's normal. If you're doing your first one, don't be afraid and concerned about those. It will happen that some of them might not be work as you expected, but after doing 10 of them, you will realize the patterns and what not to do. So
yeah, definitely spot on that. And I think to your point about it's human to human. It's you're building relationships. It's people relationships, people to people. I think by focusing on that, it reinforces the notion of authenticity. And by having an influencer, having an authentic conversation, an authentic recommendation, that probably, is worth much more than something where it's just a rote promotion or something, because then that doesn't translate to much benefit for the brand. I could definitely see that it could almost even go the other way and cause damage to a brand. So if we think about sort of the ways in which an influencer can benefit an organization, what are ways that you think physical marketing, when you think of physical marketing impressions, things like, gifting, promotional items, something where an influencer may be physically holding something that is a representation of a brand. How does that fit into influencer marketing? And why is physical marketing impressions still just as important today in the digital age as it has ever been?
Yeah, so if we think about specifically, for example, beauty and fashion, right, influencer marketing, that I would say is the most common. We've been seeing that for ages now. Gifting and physical gifts have been there for a long time. They worked very well in the past. They still work. Of course, now there are more, so you have more competition and you have to come up with new ideas. But personal gift with a handwritten note that you can send to an influencer specifically to that person. And even more, if you're able to customize your product only for that specific influencer, it will go a long way. Because with all this plethora of like emails and messages, like everything, it is digital. Going back to traditional, again, human to human, like a relationship, you will be able to really, get that competitive advantage to show to this person, we really love your profile. We have been following you for a while. We love how you do this, and that. We crafted this specific product just for you. This is the handwritten note from, let's say, the CMO, for example, right? Just for you. And we thought about you. And that is going to be like, well, it's not just a simple email, right? They took the time to look at my profile. They sent me a custom gift just for me, handwritten note from a important person in the company. They do care, and that's why it is important. So it takes more time to do, of course. But again, like between 100 emails and someone that can send you a gift. And again, I wouldn't just look just at the gift. Like I would still put like, again, maybe a little note, something that can be custom, and like make you just a quick example. A couple of years ago, with one of our talent, we were collaborating with Dunkin' about a launch of some new items out there, and Dunkin' sent these custom products, right? This merchandising with the name of the talent on, with the same font of Dunkin'. It was one piece in the world. It didn't exist, right? So our talent that was already in love with Dunkin', it was like, this is perfect. And you know what happened there? You're already a big lover of a specific product. They send you something all you knew. You will do so many more stories
right.
and TikTok for free, because you're like, wow, like I'm just, so taking a little bit more time to create that relationship, you will potentially find your new brand ambassador instead of just like one shot activity type of influencer. So more time in physical gifts, I would say there is still, go a long, time for that type of relationship. And so I would definitely, suggest to do that.
Yeah, that's not only an astute observation, but a great example as well about the power of physical marketing impressions, like you say, in those types of gifts. That's wonderful. So, Alessandro, before we wrap up today's episode, what is the main takeaway that you want to share in regards to utilizing influencers to help some of the challenges facing marketing operations executives today?
Absolutely. Just to wrap on that, and recap a bit, I would say that, apart from all the different technical sides, what I would say it is that when you buy into influencer marketing, you get much more than just pictures and videos. Again, you get user and, user-generated content and creator-generated content. So still professional, but with a unique style. Then you get distribution, right? So you get to potentially millions of people. So again, you get the assets that you can use. If you pay for media rights, you can use them on your website, for example. You can run remarketing with paid ads. You get distribution. And as I mentioned before, you get what I call like a focus group online, right? So you can actually understand what people like or hate about your product. You get this and even much more for the same price, right? Of only, let's say, buying for an influencer marketing campaign. So it's much more than that, and it's about storytelling. It's about what is behind this product. I'm not just buying a product, I'm buying the story behind that. And all influencers can do that. So if you can bind all that together and you start realizing that $1 in can bring you X amount there, it's not just about the monetary value, it is really creating that relationship with people, understanding what people want, get assets. So all in all, you get so much more that can last for 1 year, 2 years, and I don't want to say it's a no-brainer, but it's definitely not rocket science. So everyone can basically do it nowadays with these type of tools. So it's just growing, it's here to stay. And I might be biased. I just think that it's one of the best way, So it's if you are not doing that, start, in some way with an agency, without an agency, by yourself. That is totally up to you and your budgets and goals. But if you're not doing that, you are missing out so much, because it's a unique way to position yourself. It's been there for ages, word of mouth as a concept, and now it's online. So it worked for ages. It will always work. So. Just changing and shifting, but it's a great way to promote yourself.
Makes perfect sense. Well, that wraps up this episode of The Art of Marketing Operations. Thank you so much for joining us today, Alessandro.
Thank you so much for having me. I loved it.
Well, until next time, stay safe and take care.
Thank you for listening to The Art of Marketing Operations, brought to you by Taylor. Don't forget to hit subscribe in your favorite podcast player. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, and share. Until next time.